Hello and welcome to Harmoniously podcast. Today we have with us a very special guest. So we have Dr. Glauber Lourdes de Assis. Hello.
Hello, Melissa. Such a pleasure to be here. Thank you. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Harmoniously, for this invitation. I feel really honored to be here with you today.
Yeah, thank you so much. And so for everyone listening, so he's a real gem. He has so much knowledge on sacred plants, especially ayahuasca. So he's a researcher, sacred plants. He has a PhD in sociology from the Federal University of Minas Gerais in Brazil. And he's also a research associate in the interdisciplinary group of psychoactive studies, always in Brazil. And so much more, so much more. So today he will talk to us about psychedelic parenthood community, but before we get to know more about Glauber and all that he will share with us, we're going to start as usual with a short tune in or meditation so we can all tune in together and be ready to receive all this beautiful information. All right. So let's just, if you want, you can close your eyes or just take 1 second to relax and start focusing on your breath. Just focus on each inhale and exhale. Just allow yourself to be arriving to this call, to this podcast, to this moment. Just allow yourself to be arriving in the present. Just allow yourself, allow your soul to be fully in this moment. Continue focus on your breath. Just take one deep big breath. Inhale, exhale. And another one. Inhale, exhale. And one last time. Inhale, exhale. And then slowly open your eyes, being fully present to this moment. All right. So thank you. It was well needed. I had some technical issues, so I had to run around, and so definitely this taking this moment to breathe. It was perfect to be able to then know everything about you. I'm so interested. Yes, you have so much knowledge on plant medicine, and also I'm so interested on the topic of today, the parenthood. Please introduce you to ourselves, to all of us.
Thank you, Melissa. Yeah, it's such an honor to be here. And also, it was good, this moment of meditation. So I could also realize how special it is to have the possibility to build these bridges between Brazil. So I'm calling in from Brazil, Santa Lucia, Minas Gerais. It's winter time here in Brazil now, but still
Oh,
sunny. And also the US and Europe. So it's really special to be able to be in different places, but at the same time in the same place together. So I appreciate the opportunity. My name, as you gentle introduced, is Glauber, and I have a PhD in sociology, and I've been doing research on ayahuasca for 15 years now.
mm,
So, alongside with my wife, we lead here a Santo Daime church. It's a
mm.
legal tax exempt church here in Brazil for 10 years now. So, we have more than,
Yeah. Sorry, just interrupt you because maybe some people don't know what Santo Daime is. So just quickly, so Santo Daime is an ayahuasca church.
yes,
Maybe
it
you can
is.
say a little bit more, just
Yeah,
very quickly, so they know what we're talking about.
with pleasure, of course. So, ayahuasca, it's from the Amazonian biome from the global south, pretty much. And there are dozens of different ayahuasca traditions and indigenous peoples who have a lot of wisdom and knowledge about this sacred medicine that was founded, invented, created, or discovered more than 1,000 years ago. So archaeological evidence already knows that this is a very ancestral medicine. And it's important to acknowledge that ayahuasca is a very diverse world. But in Brazil, we have something really specific, unique, that is religions that were built based on the sacred consumption of ayahuasca, this sacred beverage that is usually known as a mixture of two different plants. So, divine ayahuasca that contains IMAO, beta carbolines, harmine, harmaline, and hydroharmaline. And we also have the leaves, the chacruna leaves, that contains DMT, dimethyltryptamine. So ayahuasca, these two plants together, produces this sacred liquid that is considered to be very special, very powerful, and very important for many traditions. But in Brazil, we have religions that were created, surrounded by ayahuasca. So ayahuasca plays a very central, very important role in these religions. So they are União do Vegetal, that is
Mm.
legal in the US, by the way, Santo Daime, and Barquinha, the little boat that is less known.
Oh.
And Santo Daime was the first ayahuasca, Brazilian ayahuasca religion founded
Mhm.
by a black man, grandson of people who were enslaved, called Mestre Irineu, Raimundo Irineu Serra. So I follow Mestre Irineu teachings, and 10 years ago, we opened a church here in Brazil, in Santa Luzia, where I live. So I live in this ayahuasca center with my wife, with my family, and we hold ceremonies here. So we have a full calendar of ceremonies that are based on healing, that are based on prayer. So far we held more than 500 ceremonies, when we are preparing our community to hold another one during this weekend.
Mm.
So this is my life. This is my beliefs, and this is
Mhm.
what I do in order to be connected with the divine, with the great spirit, with the forces of nature, and also to be aligned with this sense of belonging to nature, because we are also nature. So ayahuasca, just concluding, is something that taught me a lot about parenthood as well, because if we want to plant ayahuasca, we need to plant a seed, and then we need to look after the seed, and then it's going to become a plant, and then we need to put a lot of love. And
Mm.
one day, several years after ayahuasca is planted, we are going to have ayahuasca, and we're going to drink healing, and it's good medicine. It's something that can make us happy, healthy.
Mm.
So it's like raising a family, you know?
Yeah, that's beautiful. So before, like, my next question will be to know more about your work as a research in this field, and then we can go with the parenthood. But this image was absolutely beautiful of planting the seed, let it grow. So first, like, as a parent and learning parenthood from the plant itself, and then using the plant, and it reminded me of this idea of reciprocity, of how traditions, that the tribes that have been working with these plants for centuries, millennia actually, in the Americas, they talk about this reciprocity, and how the reciprocity means you give first to the plant before receiving. And that's, it's already beautiful, like you plant the seed with all this love, and you give first, and then you drink from the plant. And that's just by planting the seed, you are creating this reciprocity already there.
Man, this is amazing, this reflection on reciprocity, because this can help us to change our paradigm about life.
Mm,
because we're always, yeah, running out of time, and we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to produce more because then we are going to receive. But actually, we are so blessed because we have everything that is needed. Actually, this Mother Earth, this beautiful planet, it's so amazing to be alive, to have this capacity of breathing. So, my concept of reciprocity is when we realize that actually life's full of abundance and we are already receiving. We are receiving from nature. We are receiving, our DNA is full of the whole human history. So we are
mm,
receiving from our ancestors. And when we think about ayahuasca or other sacred medicines, it's good and it's important to acknowledge that indigenous peoples, they have been the guardians and the protectors of these medicines for centuries, as you mentioned. So it's time also to understand that we can have a important role in order to give something back, you know? So
mhm.
it's about creating relationships.
Yeah, and I like that you said guardians of the medicine. Like I heard that before, but it's definitely a beautiful, like, the importance of words is paramount, and seeing them as guardians, not as owner. Like that's already changing the paradigm there, because it's like guardian of these plants passing down to us, and now this plant is going, moving away, not away, but travel more around the world. And we need to understand that the word guardian, now we need to be guardian as well, continue this tradition of guardianship, if you want. And so tell us more about your what you do as a research.
Yes, thank you. I've been doing research on sacred plants, so pretty much ayahuasca. So when I started my master thesis, I studied the internationalization of Santo Daime, and then in my thesis, my PhD dissertation, I also studied the ayahuasca diaspora. So it's really amazing
Mm,
how these plants have this capacity of traveling abroad. So they, in a sense, they use human beings in order to travel, in order to get to other countries, continents. And then in my postdoctoral fellowship, I studied also sacred plants, psychedelics, and politics because I
mm,
was realizing something that is really important, I think, Melissa. Once I heard from Ailton Krenak, that is an indigenous philosopher that I like very much, and someone was concerned about the commodification of ayahuasca. And they asked Ailton Krenak in a TV show here in Brazil, "What's your opinion about ayahuasca, Ailton Krenak?" And he answered, they can invent a soda that is called ayahuasca. They can create a hallucinogenic brew that is called ayahuasca. They can invent a pill that is called ayahuasca. But if they don't know what the shaman talks to the plant, ayahuasca is going to be only a ticket to nowhere. And this was super powerful. And I realized that he was also talking about culture. So when we and I really appreciate the work that Harmoniously is doing because it's not only about psychedelics or substances, it's about well-being in general. It's a holistic approach
mhm,
about life in which we consider not only psychedelics and substances and molecules, but also relationships and cultures. So I did a lot of research to understand also some very fundamentalist people that can take ayahuasca, they can eat peyote and so on, but they still are people who are attached to a very complicated worldview, people who are racist, people who are homophobic, and
mhm,
they take psychedelics. So this was really something that I would like to understand. And eventually, I understood that these substances they can only heal and be as powerful as they can be if they are also within a culture, a system who can see life in a good way, who can respect other people. So that's why it's really important to acknowledge indigenous peoples because they have a culture that brings this medicine in order to heal, in order
Hmm.
to harm people. So I'm also doing research on sacred plants, psychedelics, and politics and culture. And more recently, because I realized that this is my existential condition in life, and psychedelics helped me a lot with that. I have been also doing research on psychedelic parenthood.
Hmm. I love that. And I always loved cultures also. I study languages and culture. So it has always been one of my passions, one of my first passion also as a kid. And so I totally only understand what you're saying or relate to that. And I've seen firsthand because as being a facilitator of ayahuasca and in the United States. So it was like a different culture than my native culture, which also I'm rediscovering because I've been abroad for so long that I don't know this culture anymore. But it's definitely what you're saying is true because culture give us culture and the language. They create this structure in the mind. And so even if you take this psychedelic, you will probably while you're in ceremony and there's also many things to be said, but when you're in ceremony, you're more open. But once you come back, you remember certain experience and then you try to fit some of those in a box. And I've seen a lot of like try to use or think of using ayahuasca in ceremonies, putting back in the system of like capitalism of business instead of because, and I don't think, and I mean, I'm sure with good intention, there is not even an understanding of or like it's unconscious how that they put that into a structure they have in their brain and they don't see oh that's an old structure that I can break or I need to break because actually this structure is what is quite destructive for the earth and probably by bringing something like ayahuasca that is opening the mind changing people help them see that another way is possible in their life but bringing that and bringing and putting back in an old box, then there is no 100% change. There is no real transformation as the potential of ayahuasca is restricted to an old box. And we need to open that, break that. Don't even use that. Don't even think to put it in that box. And let her do what she wants. Actually, just follow her guide. I would say we just have to follow what ayahuasca wants. She will know better how to offer her in the world. But tell us about parenthood.
Yes, this is fascinating. And I would say that the most important, there are several important topics of conversation regarding capitalism and commodification. But in my perspective, the most important thing is that we need to avoid something that a black philosopher from Brazil called the cosmophobia, Melissa. That is the fear of
Mm,
the sacred, the fear of the otherness, the fear of the cosmos. So we have this one single narrative about business and making profit, and one single narrative that tries to domesticate the wild,
mm,
domesticate the infinite, which is not possible. It's not going to work. So instead of doing that, it would be better if we rather could learn from indigenous traditions in order to understand that they don't call themselves usually. When I talk to Hunipin people, for example, they don't think they are the owners of ayahuasca. They don't want to patents about ayahuasca. They have a different kind of relationship. So we can learn from plants. Plants have
mhm,
agency, and this is something that can bring us to the parenthood conversation because
mhm.
children they love
Ah,
stories.
yes.
They have this capacity of telling stories. So if we are open enough to hear from plants, we are going to be capable of telling other stories. And in doing that, maybe we can also build different stories. And maybe we are going to be prepared to change something in our world in order to do something better, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. And so So how this idea of parenthood from secret plans come in? How did it all start for you, and what are your lessons so far? What did you learn?
Yes, I wow, this is deep for me. I'm a parent, so I'm a father of three children,
Oh,
Gael, Francisco, so inspired by in Portuguese, São Francisco de Assisi,
ah,
and
yes.
Guaraci Miguel, and Yara Maria, my daughter, and we are part of an ayahuasca tradition. So in Brazil, we have a very interesting legal context in which parental rights are respected regarding ayahuasca. So the parents have the right here in Brazil to give ayahuasca to their families, children
Hmm.
included, and pregnant women have the right to drink ayahuasca here in Brazil.
Hmm.
So all my children, they took a symbolic dose of ayahuasca when they were born. So after taking a little bit of breast milk, they took a little bit of ayahuasca, and they were born in challenging situations. So my oldest son, he got a pneumonia when he was still in the uterus, and then he needed to spend 9 days in the intensive care. And ayahuasca gave us strength enough to deal with that situation. It was very beautiful because I was devastated. My first son was born there at the hospital, and but then praying together and knowing that we are part of a community, this made us strong enough to deal with that situation. And then my wife came to me and said, "We need to be strong. We are a community. We are a family together." And then after 9 days, he was released, and everything was okay. And then my second boy, Guaraci, he when he was born, it was in a different situation, and we had this opportunity to have a traditional ritual surrounding this childbirth. So it was so beautiful to have the chance to sing some ayahuasca songs, and my wife, she
Hmm.
took a little bit of ayahuasca. And then when my daughter Yara was born, actually we were far away from the city, and my wife entered into labor, and we had hired a group of experts, so nurses, and so they would come to our place. But we called them, and they didn't answer. And
Oh,
eventually they said that at that very precise moment they were in another town. So we were, yeah, we were afraid, but then we decided to go to the hospital instead. But the hospital was really far away, and we brought just a little bit of ayahuasca with us to protect and everything. And I was driving, and then my wife just said, "Ayana is partying right now," and I said, "No way, we're driving now." And then we just had a few minutes to pray, and then we were there with ayahuasca with us, blessing us. And then downtown Belo Horizonte, Yara was born. So Jaqueline,
oh,
my wife, myself, and Yara, we were alone together inside a car. And she
oh.
was born there because we didn't have time enough to go to the hospital. And everything was perfect. And she was great, healthy, everything amazing. But my point is, being part of a culture who give us a sense of meaning in life was something really important to us. So also to deal with all the challenge related to being a family together. So ayahuasca is a teacher, is a friend, and ayahuasca is also helping me and also my wife, and is helping a lot of people. But talking about myself, to have love about me, because I care a lot of parental guilt. And I'm a man in Brazil. This can be very complicated. It's a patriarchy culture, and no matter how good I try to be. I always make a lot of mistakes, but I need to forgive myself and I need to be better. So ayahuasca, in short, helps me to deal with that and to
Mhm.
accept that I'm not perfect, but still I can be present with the presence of my
Mhm.
children. And then I realized that a lot of people in this psychedelic field, we are talking about um, a very special movement. We have a boost of ayahuasca and psychedelics in general, and a lot of international conferences and papers, and
Mhm.
people are calling it a psychedelic renaissance. But thousands of these people, they're also parents, they're also caregivers. And we are not talking about being a parent. We are not talking about parenthood. And this is disheartening because parenthood is very fundamental existential condition for people who take care of children, and this can be something difficult, for example, for mothers, especially single mothers, because when they
Mm.
need to go to conferences, for example, it's very difficult. They need to be superheroes in order to attend conferences and deal with family and children and so on. So I would like to understand better what's behind the lack of attention regarding children, adolescents, and families in general in the psychedelic field.
Mm. All right. So that's so interesting. So far you were saying that so ayahuasca in your life as a parent, she's there both for the kids. So when they were born, as it is possible in Brazil and your culture is something that it's legal, you can do it. So you give a drop when they were born, and also for the mother. And but at the same has been helping you as a parent to face and coping with some of common feelings that parent may have, like feeling guilty or other feeling, and so that's been supporting you in being a better parent in coping with all these emotions that comes up. So I heard this like with a Colombian shaman that was telling me that in their tradition, when the baby is born, they give them a drop of ayahuasca. This, this like just a little drop, and then also this the some of the kids have their first journey, of course, a small dose, or they give them a small dose about 5 to 7 years. That's when they start doing medicine. And so it was interesting that you were doing the same. Is that a tradition from Santo Daime, or is Santo Daime did Santo Daime learn that from indigenous people? And also, in your eyes, on your experience, what is the benefit of giving this little drop to the kids when they're just born?
Yes, thank you very much, Melissa, for asking this because I think this is a very important question and unfortunately surrounded by stigma. There are some
Mm,
people
yeah.
that don't want us to talk about psychedelics and families and children and adolescents because it's too much. Let's not talk about psychedelics and children. And because they say that we should avoid talking about substances and children, but actually, this is important to let people know. We are not against giving drugs to children. Actually, we are giving tons of drugs to children, amphetamines, Adderall, and a lot of things. So it's also a matter of harm reduction. How can we be able to treat children better? Because we're not treating our children really good in the Western society. And also, it's a matter of social stigma and prejudice because people are saying, for example, this is a very new topic of conversation, complicated. We don't
Mhm.
have enough data yet. But actually, Melissa, psychedelic parenthood is the most ancestral and old topic of conversation ever. And as you mentioned, a lot of indigenous and traditionalist communities in the global south, they have sacred plants that we can call psychedelics as a very special part of their lives. But still, these plants are just one part of a bigger experience of being
Mhm.
in life, of living. So this is how culture is really important. It's not only about psychedelics and giving people substances, it's about creating new or thinking about or learning ancestral ways of living on the surface of planet Earth. But answering your question about my tradition, Santo Daime, this is one of the most beautiful aspects of the Santo Daime culture because the headquarters of Santo Daime nowadays is in the middle of the forest in the state of Amazonas in
Mhm.
Brazil, and they don't have professional healthcare there. So, especially the women, they suffered a lot from the lack of health services, healthcare, and they needed to find a way to be alive, to find a way to be healthy. And during time, they developed also community care and community health care. So especially women, they look after each other. They take care of each other. So pregnant women, they have a special place to be,
Mhm.
and they have also the ayahuasca midwives. So when a woman are going to go to labor and are going to have to childbirth and to have a baby. So all the women from the community and different women, they're going to be there assisting her, supporting her, singing ayahuasca songs, giving her strength, holding her hands,
Mhm.
and uh, and then ayahuasca is part of it. It's not only about ayahuasca, but ayahuasca is there. It's there
Mhm.
concentrating the space, so the woman that is in labor can drink a little bit of ayahuasca, and then when the baby is born, can also give a small drop. So I would say that the most important benefits, because usually they are symbolic doses for children and pregnant women,
Mhm.
are the religious, the spiritual, and the culture, the cultural meaning behind this experience. Because it's very different when we are alone or in a hospital alone. We're surrounded, which is also important to have professional, modern science supporting
Mhm.
people, but it's also good to count on our community to know that
Mhm.
we have friends, that we have people that love us. So being part of an ayahuasca culture is something that can give the sense of belonging, the sense of kinship. It's not only about human kinship, it's about bonds of kinship also between human beings and plants. So ayahuasca can come and can support women and children, their journeys, and also men, of course, but talking specifically about childbirth, this
Mhm.
can be something beautiful and bright.
Yeah, it sounds very beautiful. And I was thinking, probably, I mean, I'm sure the stigma is for from people that they don't know about all this culture, and there is more of, let's say, a view or image, a in mental image of seeing the psychedelic as, in the 60s, and um, like people just trying to have fun. And so, yeah, so more of like a recreational drug view. And that's where the stigma comes from. And that's what we're doing here, educating of how these are actual something ancestral that come from deep knowledge of earth, of spirituality, of plants, and how ayahuasca is not a substance, is an actual spirit. And so even like in the labor, as I said, or even like the little drop is more ritualistic to create that connection since they're born. And that connection is to ayahuasca, but ayahuasca is more for me the gate to the connection to the whole planet. It's
Mhm.
not just this ayahuasca is the connection to the whole planet, like all the
Mhm.
plants, because they're definitely the one. making Earth or being with Earth more closer than we are. And they're there to remind us all this. And so, also, as you depicted the image of the woman in labor with all the women around and the support and the singing, that's definitely a list for me, and I hope for the listener. Such a beautiful image of something that part of our life and is such an important part of life, giving birth and welcoming new life on earth and welcoming a new life in such an environment with a support to the mother, creating a beautiful ceremony that supports both the efforts of the mother, that probably will feel less of pain or effort, because there's also that to say that when labor is approached, at least what I heard, I didn't have first hand experience, when it's approached in a more ritualistic or ceremonial way, it becomes a ceremony itself, a beautiful experience that a woman can have with all the other people around that share the love and welcome this new life. I think that's definitely the image we need to share for people to understand that it's not that to replace the wrong image that you have of people recreational using it in the wrong way. Because as you said, so ayahuasca or any other plant medicine is one tool, but then for the transformation, for the growth to be there, you need all the other, the set and setting, or how we always refer to. So the whole environment around, so a culture and understanding for it to come through. It's like we come back to the idea of planting the seed and allow the seed and supporting the seed to grow. You need to plant, even if you have the seed cannot grow in any soil, or even it cannot grow if there's no soil, right? It needs the right soil, the right environment, the right climate, the right water, the love, and all that. So I think that's what it is. The use of plant med is this. Is this again the image, as we open the podcast with this image, planting the seed. So having all the elements. The seed is the medicine, but we need everything else, and not just seeing the seed by itself and using in wrong environment, because it won't grow. It won't transform you.
Yes, definitely. You are bringing a lot of important topics of conversation, and one, and that's why I say that this is about harm reduction,
Mm-hmm.
because talking about psychedelics and families and talking about sacred plants and families is not to have or to bring more problems related to drugs. Actually, it's to heal people from problems with drugs. Actually, it's about ritualizing life. So I have a
Mm,
very special friend of mine, Daniel Munduruku, an indigenous teacher, that says we need to make our life more like a ritual. More, our life is ceremony,
mm-hmm.
and this is a very special image because, and again, we need to acknowledge modern science and hospital and doctors and so on, of course, but we also need to really take seriously this conversation about expanding our consciousness. And we need to expand our consciousness regarding not only our individual journeys with substances and psychedelics, but our collective journeys as people were living this amazing cosmic dance that we call life. So when we think about people in the Western world, thousands, millions of them, they are born alone because their mothers are with a lot of anesthesia. So
Mm,
people are born alone and they died alone in hospitals full of a lot of machines
mm,
and white walls and for a lot of indigenous peoples, being born, it's a celebration. It's a
yeah.
collective celebration. It's not something lonely at all. And dying is also something that can be a ritual, so community
Mm,
based. So this can help us to understand this perspective.
mm-hmm.
Ayahuasca is another element, very important, as you call it, a gate that can help us to understand the magical. And then and no matter what kind of belief you have or what kind of religion or not religion, you are part of. But we can also all acknowledge that existence is something amazing, and these plants, they can help us to understand that. They can help us
Hmm.
to live in harmony with nature, with other human beings, and with family, and also to support us to give other meanings to the concept of family. So you mentioned capitalism and
Hmm.
consumerism, and a lot of families nowadays, they are based on acts of consumption. So father and mothers are the ones who pay, and children are the ones who consume things that the parents pay. But what kind of relationship they are doing? I know a lot of
Hmm.
friends, that is, even here in the global south, that they spend the whole day, hours and hours and hours, and the whole night working and working and working because they need to earn money to provide a good life to their children. And then, with this good intention, they forget to live their lives with their children, to spend time. So, these plans, and talking about my own experience with ayahuasca, can also support us in building different concepts about life, about
Hmm.
time, about space. So now I understand that no matter how much money I can earn in this life, there's no money in the world that can substitute my time with my children.
Hmm. Yeah, that's beautiful. So I want to say that in short, whoever is listening, I think so. It's not that I don't, at least for myself, I don't think there's any right now in the world any economical structure or political structure that is ideal. I'm not in favor of any of them. I think it's needed. A new shift is needed, and that's what plants are teaching us. I think that's what Einstein was saying. You cannot solve the problem on the same level. So we are on this level right now on Earth, and we're trying to solve many issues. And many of them are actually what you're saying. People just working so much to buy new things. They're blind about this or other issue related to economics of political issues. But I think that debating one side or the other side would not take us anywhere because we are on the same level. And that's what plants teaching us. Going out of the same level, we would never be able to solve anything if we're still there. We need to go higher or on another, yeah, higher because from the top, you can see from the top of the mountain, from top of the hill, you're able to see more of the big picture and understand and find a solution. And yeah, that was like a parenthesis just in case anyone was thinking something about this, because I think it's important to say now we are trying to, and like in parenthood, we are trying to explore and we thanks these beautiful spirits of the plants that are showing us a new view, a new way, which is at the same time something new and at the same time something old, right? It's old in the sense is reconnecting with the essence of ourself and what we feel is actually right. And what we feel is actually right is this harmony with the plants, with all lives on earth, all lives, no one excluded. So it's just going back to that and work with life on earth, work with the harmony that is already there. And what we're doing now as human, we are working against nature, right? We're working against what nature is. And this is, I think the view is not to destroy or leave behind anything or any of the magical advances, for example, or knowledge that we have gained so far, but to use all of that in the service of how already everything is perfectly structured in nature and harm and in the cosmos. Bring us back into this big picture of the cosmos. And so, having said that, I'd like to know some maybe last words that you like to share, or some last knowledge that you have as a parent in this space, and how. So, actually, the question is more like, okay, we discussed about how beautiful it is to use the medicine, bringing kids to life, and how, as a parent, this medicine helped you to deal with some emotional issues and also see better how important it is to not only provide for the kids but actually be present for the kids. And but so how else can you use these plants, or how do you, or you use these plants in your community in parenthood?
Yes, thank you. I'm loving this conversation. Could be here for hours about it. And thank you, Melissa, for facilitating it, for giving me the opportunity to share. And this, what you said, is really important, really special. I know, and this is important to acknowledge that indigenous peoples, they are very diverse.
Hmm.
And but this being said, some of the most incredible indigenous elders and shamans and pajas that I know, they actually love modern science. They go to the hospitals. They have their private doctors, and one of my teachers here from the Amazon needed to do a surgery now in his back. So it's not an antagonism between different sciences. On the contrary, it's the possibility of confluence.
Hmm.
What a philosopher here from Brazil called confluence. So two rivers, like our body. So we have the veins. So there are different veins. So we have different kinds of wisdom, but they all flow to the same, or from the same sea, ocean.
Hmm.
So we can still keep the different identities regarding different sciences and kind of and types of knowledge, but we can acknowledge that knowledge is knowledge, wisdom is wisdom, and
Hmm.
indigenous peoples, they know a lot of solutions if we are talking about solving problems about what we are living now in the Western civilization. So, and what you said, you synthesized something really important. In my the article that my wife and I we wrote for Maps, it's called Psychedelic Parenthood, a new ancestral way of
Okay.
raising a family. And so the future is ancestral. It's something really beautiful perspective, because it's important to acknowledge and to honor the past, the ancestrals, because a lot of reasons, but they paved the way. And they know, for example, the solution for
Hmm.
the climate change, living in harmony. We are here in harmoniously, and we can have
Hmm.
a harmonious relationship with nature, acknowledging that we are also nature. So, but at the same time, it's we can embrace the new, we can embrace the new generations, and this is one of my favorite aspects of being a father. That the capacity that also sacred plants they are teaching me to learn from children. This is one of the the worst question that you can ask a child, Melissa, is what do you want to be when you grow up? Because it's first of all it's a what question, it's not a who. And the second thing is that we uh, behind this question there's this idea of children as a project of human beings that are
Hmm.
going eventually to be something, but they are actually full human beings. They're already human beings, and they are already teachers as well. And then if we open our heart to learn from children, we can realize that no one is born homophobic, no one is born racist, and on the contrary, people are born open to different possibilities of existence,
Hmm.
open to diversity, open to learn. So it's also a matter of including different families, of including queer families, of thinking about what family means to us. So family is not only about a cis heterosexual couple with children. No, family is a full discovery of potentialities and possibilities. Psychedelics can support us in that, and also to disclose our experiences as psychedelic families. And so there are lots of interesting topics of conversation. But to yeah, talk only about one more here, would say that parenthood in general, but especially, very especially psychedelic parenthood, can help us to switch a little bit our glasses
Mm-hmm.
in which we see life. So instead of thinking about solving problems, we can be more like children and finding other problems, other questions, creating different things, creating different worlds. We are also here in this world. So it's all about diversity, and also diversity of plants, of fungi, of molecules, because we all have the right to be here. If Mother Earth, Pachamama, is allowing us to be here, so we can be here, and we
Mm-hmm.
better do a good job in being here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one last question, just because it's not 100% clear to me. So, when you said psychedelic parenthood, so you mean more of like the parents being someone who grow with psychedelic, or how do you use it with kids apart from when they're born? Do you actually also use some psychedelic while they develop, or maybe just when they encounter some issue and you feel the call from the plant that that's right, or microdose or whatever. So what is in actuality the psychedelic parenthood?
Thank you. This is a very important question, and I'm developing alongside a very high-skilled team a
Hmm.
project called Psychedelic Parenthood Community. And our concept about parenthood is not about giving children psychedelics. It's about the shared experience of being parents and caregivers who take psychedelics. So it's
Mm.
about the parents and the caregivers, because we are seeing this burgeoning movement of psychedelic renaissance. Thousands of people who are part of this movement, they are caregivers, but they don't have a lot of support. They don't have a community, they don't have this sense of belonging, and it can be very difficult, Melissa. We have cases of loss of custody of children
Mm. Oh,
because the
okay.
parent, the mother or the father,
Hmm.
takes psychedelics, and then the other
Hmm.
ones too,
Yeah.
because of drugs, and
Mm.
we have other legal problems as well. When fathers and mothers that they discover psychedelics in a mature age, so after their 40s or 50s, and they don't know how to tell this experience and to how to share, their children are not going to accept. So it's also a difficult situation. We know also children from psychedelic parents, they go to school and then like they're playing with other children. They mention, so my father or my mother likes mushrooms, and then everybody starts bullying
Oh,
the
okay.
child. So this can be very problematic. So it's important to create safe spaces for
Hmm.
parents. Psychedelic parenthood, in my understanding, is this existential condition of being at the same time a parent who love my children, and at the same time a person who are interested in learning from sacred plants and psychedelics.
Hmm. Okay, that's absolutely clear now, so thank you. And so if there's any parent out there, or maybe anyone who wants to be a parent and it's interesting, and because it's reading also working with secret plant, where they can find a support, a community, or so you, or do you is do you or only have like Brazilian based community, or other from the States, Europe, where they can find more information about that?
Yes, thank you. We have a couple of people that are already doing a great job. So I can mention especially Rebecca Croman from Planned Parenthood. But we are also creating this ecosystem
Mm,
of shared experiences online for parents from the whole of the whole world. We are especially focused in social minorities, BIPOC
uh-huh.
people, queer families, but everybody is welcome. So we want to share our experiences. So we are starting holding monthly circles with mothers, monthly circles with queer families, and we have affinity groups in Telegram so the parents can share their experiences
Mm-hmm.
as well. We are developing a guideline to create good practices and family friendly events in the psychedelic renaissance. And we are
Mm-hmm.
creating also a membership program that's
Mm-hmm.
going to be ready to go soon. We also have our social media, and our project is called PPC, Psychedelic Parenthood Community. I also
Okay.
wrote a piece about it with my wife for maps bulleting. So if you
Mm-hmm.
wanna know more about this subject, you can find it on internet. It's Psychedelic Parenthood, a new and sister way of raising a family. And we you can always send me message. This is not about a new idea that I have. Is my existence, is my daily
Mm-hmm.
life here in Brazil with my community. So I would love to hear from any of you that are listening and watching this podcast. So just let me know, send Melissa a message, and we can be in touch.
Perfect. Yeah, and probably you can send us all these links so we can put them in the text down below for the one listening and watching this podcast because it will be also video. All right. So thank you, Glauber, so much for all your wisdom and knowledge. And I'm looking forward for other podcasts on ayahuasca. And in the next one, I will ask you about your that I can recognize is from Shipibo. The
There's a beautiful story behind it. So I it's for the next one.
Yes, we'll talk about it in the next one. Perfect. And how would you like to conclude? Would you like to share, like, I don't know, quote, closing statement, or anything, any last word you would like to share?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, I wanna take a deep breath here with you guys, with you, Melissa. It's just personal reflection because in Western society and also in Brazilian society in general, everything begins inside a family. If we can heal the families, if we can create an environment, a field, a community that welcome people as they are here in the world, in their existential condition, queer people, BIPOC people, religious minorities, people with disabilities. And if you can also include sacred plants as part of our families, because they already are. If you look through your window, I hope you have a chance to see some beautiful trees, maybe flowers. So we are not apart from nature, we are nature. And if we can acknowledge and understand that, we can create a better world to every one of us. So psychedelic parenthood, it's also something that invite every one of you to play a role, an important role to make a difference in this world. Thank you, Harmoniously. Thank you, Melissa. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Albert.
Thank you, Glauber, so much. Thank you for these last beautiful words. Thank you, everyone listening. So, if you have any comments, any question, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and also follow the podcast so you always know what we're doing. And thank you again. Thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful rest of your day.